that allows us to run JavaScript code in the background, completely separate from the browser's main execution thread. We've already talked about JavaScript being single-threaded in the sense that it can only run one command at a time. Now, imagine a scenario where a script is taking too long to run. Maybe in that scenario, our UI our UI freezes in time pending the execution of that script that is taking too long to run. Now, web workers solve this problem by providing a way to run multiple scripts simultaneously. So that's what web worker does for us. So by offloading every computations to a web worker, for instance, we can keep our main thread free. And then this ensures that our website user interface remains smooth, responsive, and free from freezing. Now, you look at this infographic, you see this part that says how web workers work. Maybe I can zoom this in a bit. Okay, so now you look at the main thread. So the main thread and a web worker thread, they occupied isolated environment. Now, when we start from the main thread, say what we do here is we instantiate the worker class. That is, we call the worker constructor here worker, and then we pass the relative parts of a worker script to this as an argument to this worker constructor. And then when we send data, we use the post message method on that worker object to send data to our web worker thread. So we pass the data that we wish to send as an argument to that method post message. And then this is our listener. The onMessage method on the worker object is our listener. So this receives result sent back from the background script, which is our web worker thread. And then this updates our UI. So when we go to the web worker thread, of course, it's going to be in this file. When we get to Visual Studio Code, I'm going to show you how this. So we're going to have two JavaScript files. The main thread is going to be main.js. The worker thread, which is going to be worker.js. So in our web worker thread, we have when we receive message with this onMessage method. This self refers to the web worker own global scope. Now, because the main thread and the web worker thread, they occupy isolated environments, this web worker thread, it runs in the background, so it doesn't have access to the browser main window. So it's using self for its own global scope in this background environment away from the main thread. So that's what the self refers to here in this context. So the onMessage method on the global scope of our web worker thread, it handles it receives the data, and then it performs whatever computation it wants to perform here, or that it's asked to perform. That data has to be sent from the main thread back here. And then when the web worker is done performing that task, it sends it back to the main UI thread through the post message method on that self global scope in this environment. And then it passes the result as arguments to the post message method. So the communication is event driven through asynchronous communication like that. So Yes, a communication between the main thread and the worker is done via post message and on message. Data is copied using a structured cloning algorithm. And what is there's an what is it called? There is a small example here. So we have this this main.js, which is our main thread. So here we have this object which is pointing to this new worker uh, constructor, which is an instance of the worker uh, class. So we're passing the relative part of the worker file here, which is going to be worker.js. And then this is used for sending message, post message, call on the worker objects. And then we can pass the data that we wish to send to the worker thread inside this post message, pass it as an argument here. And then we use this on message method, which is an event listener anyway, to listen to result from the worker. So we get the data on the event. And then in the event that we got an error, we use the on error object to get that. And then for the worker.js, which is the worker thread, of course, the self.on message, we've talked about this. What else do I want to talk about here? I don't think there's much. So browser support Chrome, Edge, Firefox, Safari, all modern browsers. And then for common use cases, CPU intensive calculations, e.g. data processing, image manipulation, and the likes. So let's get back to our Visual Studio Code. I'm going to try to zoom this in to see what we're doing. Okay. I think this is too much. Okay, I'm just going to. All right. So now we're gonna have two JavaScript files, main.js, which is going to contain the code for our main thread, and then the worker.js file, which is going to contain the code for our worker thread. So we have an index.js. We're going to hook our main.js thread or file to our index.js. So what we want to do here is there's going to be a button. So this button is going to start a heavy task. So when we click on this button, the data sent to our web worker is going to start computation, and then the computation is going to. So this is going to essentially send hook to the code that send data to our web worker, and then we receive the result here in this paragraph. So the script tag it points to our main.js. So let's go to our main.js and let's see what we have here. This is our main.js. Okay, so we're getting the ID of our button and then the ID of our paragraph here, so that we're going to attach so here we are attaching text content, this string, and then maybe the result of our data to that paragraph, which we get through in a DOM through get element by ID. And then what else? So these calculate btn, that's going to track the ID of our button. So let's get started. So here the first thing we're going to do is we're going to instantiate our web worker. So we get a cost the worker it points to this new worker constructor. So this is our object. So this is an instance of our worker class. Remember we said worker is a built-in browser feature. Okay, so here this is our worker file, worker.js, this one. Okay, now we're going to add an event listener to our button. So we're tracking the ID of our button here. This calculate btn is the ID of our button here. So we're tracking it here, and then we're using this event listener. The event is click, so we have a callback here. And then when we click this event, we want to add this text content to our paragraph. So the text content is going to be calculating in background. UI is not frozen. Okay. And then when that is done, we're going to send this message using the post message method on our worker object. And then we're going to pass this data number equals to, is this 50 million? We're going to send this data to our worker via this post message. So this is how we listen to the result coming from our worker thread using this on message listener. So when we listen to the message or the result from our worker, we're also going to use this text content on our DOM, which is to attach the message to our result display, which is our paragraph tag. So we're going to attach this string finish calculation, then the result, we pass the data there. And then in the event that we encounter any error, this on error object is going to help us to undo error gracefully. And then we can log this to the console. You can get a message, file name, and a line number on our error object. Okay, so let's go to worker.js. So in our worker.js, we listen to data from main.js using this on message event listener. And so this point to a function which takes event as a parameter, and then we can get the data on our events. So that's event.data, and then we store that in this data variable. So we want to have a result variable here, set it to 0 to begin with, and now we want to perform some kind of computation here using this for loop. So we're going to get the number on that data. Remember, number was sent from our main.js thread. So we're going to get that number, and then so for this for loop, I equals to 0, I less than data, the number, I plus plus, and then we're going to increment our result by the result of our loop here, and then we're sending the result back to our main.js thread using the post message method. So it's quite it's not complicated in my view. So the way we do this is we go back to index.html, and then we make sure that we run this with a server. So we don't just, if you just double click this, it's not going to run because the browser security, what is it called? Something related to calls. So the browser is not going to allow this to work if we just double click this. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to run this with a server. So I have Visual Studio Live Server. So I'm just going to right click here, and then I'm going to do open with Live Server here. So if you don't have it, you can just go to is it extension, and then you can install it there in Visual Studio Code. So I'm just going to click on this, open with Live Server, and then see it's saying server started at port 5500. So okay, so Safari is booting up. Go to a main thread. Calculate between that add event listener. So when I click on this button, we have worker to post message. It's going to send this number to our worker thread. So I think let's see, are we ready? Okay, so now we have web workers. Start every task, then result appears here. So this is what we have in our index.html. This is our button, this is the paragraph. For now, it says result appears here. So when the result of our computation comes in from a worker thread, then we're going to use text content. What is it? We're going to use this text content. What is it? Yeah, text content to get our results. What is it? Okay, finish calculation. This one. So this result display is targeting the ID of a paragraph here. So let's go back to our browser. Then if I click this, then it says okay. So it says finish calculation. So we have this result. So there's nothing blocking our UI in any way. So guys, I think that's all for this tutorial. I'll see you in the next video.